Hello. The purpose of this video is twofold. Firstly, I want to harvest some banana shallots from buckets and some onions from buckets, and then I want to go on to talk about what we're going to do with the empty buckets and the soil that'll be left over when these vegetables are harvested. Now, if you're like me and you're in a small garden and you don't have room for a compost pile, or you don't have the inclination to build one because you worry about smell, the work involved, the area, where would you put it, if you haven't got, if you're not going to go with a compost pile but you'd still like to compost, then this video is for you. It's definitely for you. Okay, so how do we know when our banana shallots in buckets are ready to harvest? How do we know when they're ready to harvest? Because they fall over. They fall over, they won't stand up. The necks become soft and they will not stand up. So we may as well take them, they're not growing anymore. So we'll take these few banana shallots, and then what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you some banana shallots that I've taken from the raised bed earlier this week, and we'll make a comparison. Okay, so they're the banana shallots. Yeah, you can grow them in a 10-inch water bucket, you can grow them in a 5-gallon bucket. You will get some banana shallots at the end of the day. Fingers crossed. These are the banana shallots from the raised bed. As you can see, they've all fallen over, so they've been harvested. And as you can see, they're much bigger, much bigger. This is what a banana shallot should look like. Perhaps I've overloaded this bucket. I've never grown banana shallots before. I certainly haven't grown them in a bucket. But we're going to give it another go next year, and perhaps we won't put as many in the bucket, and just see if we can get them up to this sort of size. But they're all usable, they're all solid, so we're quite happy with that. We're happy with the banana shallots in buckets. Okay, same again. How can you tell when your onions growing in buckets are ready to harvest? They fall over. The necks go soft. They fall over. So these onions are ready to harvest. So we're going to take these onions now. And there's probably no need for me to tell you this, but I'm going to anyway. They're a red skin. I'm fairly sure you can see that. But hey, we're happy with those. 5. I'm not too sure how many actually planted in this bucket, but we've got 5 reasonable red skin onions. And given my past form growing red skin onions, I'm really well pleased with these. I'm really well pleased with these. Now let me show you what onions look like that have been grown in a raised bed. These are my onions grown in a raised bed, and again, how do we know they're ready to harvest? The necks have gone soft, the tops have fallen over. So I think I took these out of the raised bed about 3 or 4 days ago. So we've got raised bed onions and onions grown in a bucket. Hey, come on, you've got to be happy with that. You've got to be. You've got to be. Okay, so if you're like me and you're in a small garden and you'd really like to compost, but for all the reasons I gave you earlier, you're not going to do that. But you are going to have lots of buckets and lots of soil at this time of year, just like me. So we're moving through the tail end of summer here in the UK. As you can see, things are being harvested, and we need to start thinking now about preparations for next year. Well, we do. You know, we need to prepare for success. It's no good leaving it. Prepare now. So let me put these out the way a minute. So we'll turn this bucket out. We've got all that soil. We've got this bucket. You might have just the same where you garden, a bucket and soil. Right. This is the soil from the shallots. And this is some soil from a bucket of beetroot that I took earlier. Wow. Right, what we're going to do with this lot, it's got to go somewhere, hasn't it? Well, I'll tell you what I do every year, and I'm suggesting that you might want to do the same. If we move into the end of our summer, then there's lots of this stuff, and we're not going to grow anything in it because we can't, because it gets too dark and it gets too cold and nothing will grow. So we need to retain this soil. We certainly don't want to be throwing it away, but it will have had a lot taken out of it because it's grown vegetables this year, so we'll need something put back into it. So how are we going to do that? And how are we going to do that with the restrictions we've got of a small garden? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to build the smallest compost pile in the world. Yeah, we're going to build that. I build one every year. There's no reason why you can't build one. What we're going to do is we're going to break this up and pop it straight back into those buckets. And at the end of this growing year, I'm going to finish up with 20, 30, 40 buckets full of this stuff. And what am I going to do with it? Well, I'm going to build that smallest compost pile in the world. Check this out. These are some screenshots from previous years, and then come back to me and we'll round this video up. Oh, and while you're away, I'll break this up. So every year without fail, in autumn, me and Molly would go to our local woods, collect leaves, go to our local seashore, collect seaweed. But it's not going to be the same this year. Molly isn't with me anymore, so I'll have it to do myself. But I will, and I've got fond memories, and I know you have if you've seen some of my previous videos. But yeah, we'll collect some leaves, we'll collect some seaweed, and we'll make the smallest compost pile in the world. Now if you fancy having a go at this, what I'm going to do, when I'm finished in this wheelbarrow, I'm going to put you a couple of links to videos that I've done previously. And what I would say here and now is that the mix, if you like, is a green-brown mix. The brown is the autumn leaves. That's why we do it in autumn. And the green is seaweed. And we like to do that in winter because there's no smell and no flies. I think I might mention that in the videos that I'm going to put in this wheelbarrow. And so we're not far off doing that now, but what we need to do is just put the soil back in the buckets and probably leave about a 2-inch space at the top, and that's the amount of chop and drop that's going on the top of this bucket. You don't need any more than that. You don't need any more than that. That's going to disappear through autumn and winter, and you're going to do nothing. Once you've built the smallest compost pile in the world, you're going to do nothing. The worms in this soil are going to love it. They'll love it. And they'll be there in the spring of the year when you turn these out to reinvigorate them, probably with some fertilizer, and then start the whole cycle again. But during those winter months, this soil will be getting better and better and better, and you will not need to do anything. Just leave it. Once you've built that smallest compost pile, just leave it. Don't do anything. Right, so let me move this out. We'll just fill this one more, and then we'll call it a day, and I'll put that information in the barrow for you. And if you've got any questions, come back to me. I think in the videos I use a lawnmower. If you haven't got a lawnmower and you don't need a lot and you can get some seaweed, put it in one of these buckets, probably a bit of water in there, and use your hand shears. Just chop it up like that. But if you've got a lot of these buckets, run over it with the lawnmower's the thing. Just make sure there's no stones in the seaweed and there's no fishing twine. Your lawnmower will not like that, either of those two. And only take it off the high water mark, not take live seaweed off the rocks. Do not. It's part of the ecosystem. And if you haven't got seaweed, you know, I can hear people saying now, oh, I haven't got seaweed, I don't live near the sea. And that's fair enough, you haven't. Well, for the green, grass. Use the grass. And do this in autumn when you've got some leaves, and possibly save the last cut of the lawn. So you now have some green, you now have some brown. In fact, you can kill two birds with one stone. Just lay the leaves out, lawn mow your garden straight over the top of it, cut the grass, pick the leaves. It's chop and drop and it's mixed. Don't forget to leave that room for the chop and drop. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'll tell you what, I'm ready for a cup of tea now. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'll pop those two links in this barrow right now. This is Homegrown Veg, signing out.